I'm joined here with Dr Ran Porat to go over the latest developments that we've seen in the past 48 hours between Israel and Iran and the launch of Operation Roaring Lion. Ran, thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Rebecca.
I want to start with what we've seen as being the largest aerial operation in the IAF history unfold over Tehran. And we've now seen a short time ago, Hezbollah has since joined. Can you take us through some of the most significant developments over the past 48 hours?
So the whole thing started with the decapitation or the removal of the heads of the Iranian regime. Khamenei, of course, the supreme leader, and many of his commanders, the commanders of the AIJAC and leading politicians. And that was performed by Israel with the help of Israeli and American intelligence. Later on, what happened was the necessity was to remove all these air defenses that the Iranians still had with the small capacity, small numbers after the June war last year, but that was crucial to open the skies for American and Israeli airplanes. And then what happened was the hunting of missile launchers, of missile depots, of headquarters that coordinate missile attacks to minimize the impact of the reaction or response that was expected from the Iranians, which they did, shooting rockets, missiles, and also drones to the region. And now we're at the stage 4, where all of this still happening. What is happening is that Israel and the US are going to step up their efforts to change the conscience of the Iranian people by hitting targets of the regime, symbols of the regime, like the television, the Supreme Court, IRGC headquarters, Basij, which is the voluntary force, to convince the Iranian people that the time is close or ripe to come out to the streets and topple the regime.
We've seen the elimination of Ali Khamenei, the leader, the supreme leader of Iran, and senior figures of the IRGC as well. With their elimination, has this created a vacuum of power? What happens next in terms of Iran being able to organise themselves from a strategic point of view in terms of how they continue to partake in this?
Well, Iran is a state. It's not an organization like, let's say, Hamas is. So they should have had contingency plans, emergency plans in advance. And we know that Khamenei, for instance, nominated Ali Larijani, one of his close counselors or consultants, to take over operationally after he's gone, because he understood he's going to be martyred from his perspective, So we do see a level of functionality in the Iranian regime as of now, still, but we still reduced one for 2 reasons. One, Israel and the US are hitting the hubs, the headquarters, the operational centers. So it's hard to actually send out orders or carry out planned attacks. That's why, for instance, the firing of missiles is more sporadic, less organized. The other thing that's happening, because these new people or people that are replacing the existing ones in the operational level or the political level, many of them are corrupt people that were removed from the system or ineffective or old, detached from the system. So you can see more and more reduction of the capabilities of the Iranians to operate while they're facing this massive war machine that is hitting them.
I want to talk about the Iranian people for a moment. We've seen in both Trump's address over the weekend and Netanyahu as well, essentially a sentiment of, we're doing the heavy lifting for you, we're creating the conditions for you to come out and take back your country and take back freedom and control. What would need to happen for that to actually be able to occur? What are the precursors that need to be seen?
So there's a triangle. The triangle is US, Israel, and the son of the deposed Shah, Reza Pahlavi, that is now, he's living in Los Angeles. Israel and the US are clearing the way by sending or attacking these symbols of power, these actual oppressive powers on the ground forces, clearing the way for the Shah to tell the Iranian people, listen, the obstacles have been removed, you don't need to fear anymore, now is the time to act, so to come out to the streets. We want to see millions of people on the streets like happened in 1979 when the Shahs left to the West. So when we see that development, when we see the battle over hearts and minds, which is this stage of the war, the battle over hearts and minds, that the Iranians feel that freedom is near, that it's now the time to come out, that their oppressors are weak, and it's time to hit the nail on its head, then the toppling of the regime will be finalized. The regime is definitely weaker. It's definitely making strategic mistakes. But the Iranian people have to sense that and feel that, and they are being encouraged to wait for that right moment and go out and finish the job.
Strategically, what are some of those things that we would need to see for them to feel emboldened and confident to come out onto the streets?
So there's lots of discussion about it in the academic world, and one of them is how do you pinpoint the indicators of that shift in conscious towards we're no longer oppressed, or we can now claim our freedom. One of them is the reversal of guns or barrels. So when the army that attacks the citizens to oppress them starts to attack the regime instead, that is a strong indicator that a revolution is happening. When the official institutes of the government talking about this new regime, new government, and rejecting the old regime, like the TV, the radio, media, that is when we see strong indication that, of course, the revolution or the toppling of the old regime has or is in the state of being completed. In the Arab world, by the way, in the Muslim world, you add the calling of the muazzin, or what's happening in mosques, who are they naming as the leader. That's an old tradition. So there are many indications that initial signs of it are already happening. Forces within, anti-regime forces within Iran are already attacking, at least at the periphery, some police stations or arresting IRGC people. Initial signs that the regime, at least, is on its way to join in or become part of the dustbin of history.
I want to speak about the state of the regime currently. Obviously, they've been weakened. We saw the 12-day war of last year between Israel and Iran. And at that point, it was estimated that they had 3,000 ballistic missiles in their possession. Since then, do we have a sense of what's in their arsenal? And also, still, like in the last 48 hours, we've seen Iran attack 8 different countries in the Middle East, including UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, just to name a few. So what have they got left in their arsenal at this point? Do we know?
We know that Israel and US are doing everything in their power to minimize the ability of the Iranians to counter or to strike back. They're hunting launchers, which is the bottleneck.
Yep.
Without launchers, even if you have 1 million missiles, you can't use it. They're attacking headquarters that coordinate the attacks. They're attacking silos where missiles are being hidden. They're attacking bases. They're attacking drone bases, by the way. So there's an extremely intensive effort to minimize their ability to strike back. We also know that after the June war, the type of ballistic missiles the Iranians have been, or the mixed between missiles that can shoot quickly, the solid fuel ones, and the ones that take time, and that means they might be exposed and destroyed. The liquid fuel ones, we know the mix is more towards the liquid fuel ones. So they have more of these, which are easier to detect. But we see on the ground proof that they still have that abilities. They hit countries, as you note. And I also see signs of panic. Shooting everywhere, shooting at the very countries that try to protect you, like the UAE or, I don't know, the Saudis, which are calling for peace. Shows panic, like let's drag everybody into this war in the hope that these countries will pressure the US to stop. But we see a different result. We see these countries angry and wanting the US possibly and Israel to finish the war, finish the job, and get rid of this menace to the region.
The fact that Iran have attacked 8 countries, what does this mean for more broader regional implications in terms of relationships shifting in the Middle East?
There is a question about how would post-regime Middle East look like?
Yeah.
I think these are the last breath, or hopefully these are the last breath of this regime that was creating an alliance against itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's called the axis of resistance, right? The axis of refusal, whatever. What will happen if Iran is now a democratic state? Will it be again a Shiite country or not? There's huge implications about the Shiite population of the Middle East and across the world. Will the countries that were attacked, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, etc., actually want to forge stronger relations with the one superpower of the world, the US, to protect them from a re-emerging threat from somewhere else? Or will it mean that they don't need the US anymore because this threat has been removed? There's a lot of questions that we don't know, and I think we will not know for years. What we do know that this is not Iraq, meaning when Iraq was toppled, it created a lot of mess, but it was sort of contained into Iraq. That's the first stage. We saw later on the Arab Spring. When Iran falls, this is a much bigger fall. Iran had much more impact on neighboring countries than Iraq did. Even though Iraq, invaded Kuwait, had a war with Iran, Iran had its fingers in every state in the Middle East, from and up to Africa. What will happen when that stops? These are very important strategic questions. We'll have to wait and see.
Coming back to the present, Ran, you're fluent in Arabic and an avid consumer of Arab media. Over the past couple days, how have you seen these events play out in various media across different Arab countries?
It really depends on what media you read or you follow or you watch. The Shiites are in shock, or many among the Shiites are in shock, because it's like, their alleged supreme leader, their religious leader, has been decapitated, removed, eliminated. It's sort of woven into their story of being robbed of their power, that story that is the origins of Shia. They were robbed of their power in 1680 in the Battle of Karbala. So that is one question. The other question is how the other type of anti-regime forces feel. So there's the Sunnis, and they rejoice, but they're thinking about their next target, could be Israel, because they might see it as okay, the Shiites are gone, now the other infidels, we should go after them, and you can actually hear that. And there's also pro-West, pro-peace, pro-Israel, at least pro-democracy forces in the Middle East, that we're hoping this would strengthen them and put them in control, or at least give them more legitimacy. So again, depends who you follow, depends what you see, that leads to what you see. Again, it's going to be an interesting mosaic of voices.
Ran, you obviously have a very deep and comprehensive understanding of Iran, but also the Middle East, and not just the political players, but the history and the different personalities and the different cultures as well. In your assessment, what do you see as the most likely scenario for a post-toppled regime of Iran?
I know that at this stage, almost all opposition forces are together. They're working together because they have a common interest, and that is the end of this horrible, oppressive regime for 47 years. In the Middle East, there's always that conflict between your ethnic identity, your religious identity, your local identity, and the national identity. What is stronger? Allegedly, Iran was at the other end of the scale, where national identity was very strong, even if you're, Baluchi, Arab, Luri, Kurd, whatever. But when that unravels, when the central government unravels, there is always the option or the scenario where Iran is broken down into ethnicities, into autonomic areas, like we've seen in Iraq, for instance, or escalate or finds itself in a civil war, like we've seen in Syria. These are important questions that are yet to be seen. We do know that there is, at least for now, one sort of unifying figure, which is the son of the Shah. And we are hoping that he will lead to a transition towards democracy in post-regime Iran.
Just finally, how long do you see this playing out? And to bring it back to Israel, obviously, Iran was the head of the axis of resistance. They funded Hamas, Hezbollah. What do you see as being kind of the greater impact for the future of Israel?
Hamas is not going anywhere. There still needs to be a solution for or at least some sort of engagement with the Palestinian issue. This is also a demand by Arab countries that want to step forward with their relations with Israel, most notably Saudi Arabia. I think it might put new stress or new pressure on Israel to find some sort of plausible agreement or solution to the Palestinian issue. I don't know what it will be. I'm not saying what it should be. I'm just saying it might lead to the resurfacing of the Palestinian issue that was already in the forefront after the horrible, terrible October 7th attack. It's a new chapter in the Middle East. And since, I would say, 1979, but more so since the American invasion to Iraq, the toppling of Saddam, we've seen an escalation of these internal changes in the Middle East. And we have to maybe question ourselves, is the Middle East ever going to be stable? Maybe that is the game changer. Who knows?
Remains to be seen.
Remains to be seen.
Dr. Ran Porat, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Rebecca.